Hey everybody, I'm just a working stiff. I'm not real good at this. This isn't what I'm paid to do, so if I get a little off track, indulge me, alright? I'm Terry Fritter. I'm a state employee. Assemblyman Voss brought something up about, has somebody talked to anybody in the private sector? Well, I worked 34 years at Oscar Myers before I started working at the state. I worked 19 years at the state now. Worked 2 full-time jobs, 14 years, so probably worked more in the private sector than anybody here. As people drive by and they say, get a job, I was going, geez, could you do what I did for 14 years? Anyway, I'd like to talk about a couple of work people I work with. You know, as we're talking about what this bill is going to do to people. This is human beings we're talking about here. These aren't numbers. These are what you people call the haves. And at Oscar Myers, you know, I worked with Beckner Slaughter. You know, you worked with what comes out the other end of an animal. Where I work today, I'm an animal research technician. We take care of lab animals, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of research. We take care of the animals. So again, what goes in one end, we got to take care of comes out the other end. That's our job. You starting this at $11.87 an hour. Most of the people in this job classification make between $13 and $14 an hour. So when you start hitting them with $208 a month in health care, that's a lot bigger percentage of their take-home pay than it is for the governor and people sitting here. They're making $26,000, $27,000 a year, and you're pounding them with $208 a month in health care. These are the haves now. $208 a month, they're making $26,000 a year. And then you take out their retirement. The gentleman I work with he's a widower, has a daughter and a brother that lives with him who's has a lot of problems that he's helping take care of. He just dropped his health care because he couldn't afford it. My wife Patty was driving him around to the food pantry so they'd have enough money to eat until he can get his health care dropped so they can afford this money. These are real human beings. These aren't numbers. This isn't the haves and this is people who are wondering how they're going to live from paycheck to paycheck, and you're making the rules harder for them. I keep hearing all of this, geez, business isn't going to invest because we have all this uncertainty. Well, what's uncertainty when you're changing the rules so you work Monday through Friday, but all of a sudden they can come up to you on Tuesday and say, well, geez, you're going to work 16 hours today, and you've got health or child care issues. How can you change all that? And then come up to you, but don't work Friday. Now, when you talk uncertainty, you talk about screwing up people's lives. This is what's going on here. This is how you're destroying people's lives. These aren't numbers. These are real people. You know, how many times can you kick the low-wage worker in the teeth before you try to find somebody else to do it to? I went down south. It was great down there. You know, I was walking around. We went to a place called Fort Donelson. You know, has anybody ever heard of that? Fort Donelson? It was the first big victory of the Civil War. And it opened up the Cumberland River and the Tennessee River in the west. That was the first Union, that was like the Union victory. You know, we were the Union then. The North was Union. This state was one of the biggest Union backers there was. So anyway, after that victory, you know the first thing that U.S. Grant did? He set up schools for the freed and escaped slaves because he knew that education was important. And yet we're setting up things that are stopping schools in the prisons, stopping schools all over the state, making it harder for our children to get an education. In the 1860s, they knew that without an education, the people weren't going to be able to get by in this world, and yet this state now is deciding that we shouldn't be educating our children. But I found something else out I thought was pretty neat. They found out that before the rebel states, Confederate states, could join the Union again, they had to swear that they would abide by the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution. And I understand that the Constitution is real big. You know, I keep hearing it all the time, we got to follow the Constitution. I don't think many people know what it is. But under 14, it's about civil rights. Amendment to the Constitution 14 is about civil rights. And I keep hearing that, well, it's not civil right for collective bargaining or to have unions. But I don't see the attacks on the Chamber of Commerce. I don't see the attacks on the AMA or the bar. All I do is see attacks on the working staff who's going out every day doing the best he can for this state or the employer that he has. That's where the kick in the teeth is coming. I don't see it going to the other end. I don't see it going to them at all. Now, the 13th Amendment abolishes slavery. And I certainly am not saying that we're being enslaved. But I remember what happened after the Civil War, and Nathan Bedford Forrest started the Ku Klux Klan. And I remember what they did. They started sharecropping. The rich still lived in antebellum plantation mansions as the poor were out there working just to make it every day. And I was growing up, you'd see the picture of the poor kid sitting there. My dad was from Virginia. He moved to Wisconsin because he tried to form a union in Virginia after World War II. And they wouldn't. He says, I'm not going to fight for this country and not be treated like an animal when I come back. So what you're doing is you're actually creating a sharecropping system. You're paying just barely enough for people to get by as we keep funneling money to the rich and funneling more money to the rich. Now, how can you justify that? How can you justify that? As you're stealing from people making $13 an hour in my job classification. How can you do that? $208 a month, that's the same as they're taking out of you guys' paychecks for health insurance, and they're making a lot less money than you. How can you continually attack the same people, the lowest paid, hardest working people in this state? And I sit here, as I told you what my job was. I worked at Oscar Myers dealing with animals, and I work now dealing with animals. I'm pretty knowledgeable about animal feces. And this seems to me like a whole lot of bull crap being sent our way again. And with all due respect, Senator, but that's the way I see it. So that's about all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ed. The other examples you gave were also very compelling. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank all of you.